And this is running, and this is. I should have actually done this a few times. You know what happens is I have to sync audio.
Yeah.
And that's a
Yes.
visual. That's a visual pop, and I can sync it. So the clapboard. This is like old school. You really need a clapboard to sync them. Anyways,
I never knew that.
yeah,
No.
yeah, because you see on the audio you see a spike, and on the camera you know the exact instant they touch.
I didn't
Huh,
know that.
interesting.
But I haven't been doing it because it looks silly. If then Robbie, I didn't mind doing it. Okay, irrelevant.
All right. First, if you would, give us your name, your title, and a little bit about your bio personally.
Sure. My name is Robbie Russell. I'm a Senior Vice President here at PNC Bank, and have been with PNC for about 4 years, but have been in banking for 35 years, most of which has been as a commercial lender or as a commercial manager leading a lending team. But have been in the Asheville community for the last 15 years as a city exec with my prior employer, and somewhat of a city exec here at PNC, just helping expand and brand the name of PNC in this marketplace.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, first topic for us is, from your perspective in the banking world, why is leadership important? Why does it matter?
I think it's one of those characteristics and values that banks really need, particularly in markets such as Asheville. We consider this an outer market. It's not your metro market, but yet leadership is very important there too. The key is really helping brand and lead the employees in the effort of broadening brand, which gives you opportunities to do more business in the marketplace. And that leadership takes a number of different forms. Certainly the community is very much critical. Also, getting deals done in the marketplace. And then having visions of the type of business within the marketplace that you desire to have in your portfolio. That is critical, because once that is established, then others seem to realize that you're very credible in the marketplace, and will understand that what you bring in terms of products and services and differentiating yourself from the others is a big piece of that. So leadership is the key. It really is the key of really moving the needle in terms of your positioning in the market.
Okay, thank you. Talk a little bit about how you perceive leadership being different from management.
Wow, great question. Great question. Management, in my opinion, is just inspecting the work that you're desiring to get done of your employees. Leadership is leading employees in a direction with which you're desiring to go. And to me, those are totally different. One is visionary, and then empowering employees to, one, join in that vision and see that vision along with you, and then help execute that vision to achieve the results with which you desire. So you're leading people in a direction, but yet they're in the game with you. They see the vision and see the end result. So it's not necessarily managing and inspecting the work to get done. It's really leading the effort in the work that you desire to achieve.
Okay. Along with that, talk a little bit about, from your perspective, what some of the traits are, the common traits of a leader, important traits of a leader.
Yeah, you have to have really good communication skills, both written and verbal is key. I think you also have to have some charisma. People have to believe in your vision and in who you are as a person, and desire to be a part of that effort. I think you have to have honesty and integrity. I think you have to also be a person who doesn't mind telling it exactly the way it is. You can't sugarcoat this in terms of where you desire it to go. So I think you've got to be straight to the point in terms of what it is that you're looking and asking people to do and where it is that you're going. And then I think the other thing is holding them accountable to that. As they join into that effort, it's important to hold them accountable to what it is that they are joining and wanting to be a part of.
And you mentioned it earlier, but could you expand a little bit about the importance of being a visionary and innovative?
Yeah, I think that's where some leaders fail. I think sometimes we have good vision, but is it one that's achievable? The bar may be set too high, or too low. It could certainly be the other way as well. I think it's easy for us to set. I think many times we tend to set the bar too low. But I think a visionary person is one that sees the end result today. The challenge, of course, is how do we execute to get to that end result? But they have a vision of seeing exactly where it is that we need to go. And then having colleagues help formulate the plan to get there. That leader may have an idea, but it may not be one that's realistic. Or it may be one that just needs some individuals to come and help. But vision is so critical. I was with a client today, just making it real. This tariff issue with China, I thought he made a very valid point, and that is, if in 2020 or 2021 you haven't diversified your supplier base, and yet you're still very much dependent upon China to deliver your products, then one would question your leadership. One would question the vision that you have for the company, and is that right or wrong? And in his view, and I would agree, it's probably not correct to still be totally dependent upon China. The marketplace has changed, and so you need to be willing to change with it, with a vision of where you think you need to be, and be somewhat quick in making that decision, because India, Vietnam are some other viable markets that are now gearing up to take on more of the work that China is likely to lose with its U.S. clients. So you've got to be able to look beyond the tea leaves at times to see where you feel like things are going and where your company needs to go.
And also, if you would, along with pursuing that vision, as you mentioned, talk about organizational development and the role the leader plays in that.
Another great question, and I think for some businesses that's where we fail a lot, is developing our people to be able to have some vision, but also come alongside a visionary to assist in the effort. I'm not really sure that, one could question whether, I think we all tend to have a vision of either personally for ourselves. Some are certainly better at it than others in terms of how they both craft their own vision. But I'm not really convinced that as companies we do a great job in training and helping and assisting our employees from an organizational perspective around vision and catching the vision of the company. There are some, I think, examples in the marketplace that have done that quite well. One that I would point to would be Chick-fil-A. I think the vision's very clear. I think it's permeated throughout the organization. Not that they have it perfect, but there's a great expectation that going from a Chick-fil-A here in Asheville versus one in Charlotte, what to expect and how you'll be treated. And so I think they have done a pretty good job of making sure that's permeated throughout the organization. And so it's difficult. It's very difficult. On the opposite end, there are other companies that have struggled in that regard, and as a result have not fared well, and their customer service has suffered as a result. So there's work to do there, a lot of work to do there.
And within organizational development, a lot now is being done and taught about team building.
Yes.
The importance of teams.
Yes.
Speak to that, if you would.
Yes. It's interesting because I think technology is driving us in another direction in terms of team building, but team building is obviously very important. Again, you have to have someone that will lead and have individuals who will come alongside of them to help drive the vision. We used to say there's no I in team, and I'm sure that's very familiar. You've heard that before, but it's true. Each person has a role to play, and I think what's important is that they understand what their role is, and it's clearly defined. It's interesting because HR, human resources divisions within corporations, used to try to work on the weaknesses areas of individuals. You take Myers-Briggs or some type of test of that nature to point out weaknesses, and then they would try to organize various trainings around and helping you strengthen those weaknesses. Well, recently they've come out now with Strength Finder, which has been around for quite some time, because people tend to gravitate to their strengths. And I think when you build a team, you need to understand the strengths of each individual on that team and what role they can play that aligns with their strengths. And sometimes, I'd probably say many times, we get that wrong. I think we need to be using that from a hiring perspective in terms of building a team, and certainly using it if a team is already formed to make sure that they're aligned, their job duties more align with what their strengths are. Because they're more easily adapt to doing that versus something that probably isn't a strength. So in building a team, I think there are a number of different tools out there that can be used today to do that better. I'm not sure if we're doing it better, but there certainly are some tools with which they help in that regard. But I think building a team is aligning with that individual team member's strength because they're gifted and talented in that area, and that's where we need to be placing them.
Excellent. Speak to the importance of ethics, which you mentioned earlier on,
Yes.
and diversity,
Yes.
balancing that in an
Both
Yeah,
of
wait 1 second, I apologize. It wasn't out of the way yet. Go ahead.
both of which are great topics and obviously receiving a great deal of notoriety today. And I'll start with diversity. There is a browning of America that's existing and that's happening. And I think we need to recognize that as a strength and certainly not a weakness. There are very gifted individuals that desire to be a team member and play a part in corporate America, and it needs to be embraced. And so more effort, I think, needs to be put toward making sure that diversity exists and inclusion exists within your team. It's statistically proven that as your organization represents the community, your revenues are higher and your profitability is stronger. It's been statistically proven time and time again. So that data exists. So I think, particularly in the banking industry, I think we still have a ways to go to make sure that we're representing our community. But there is an effort, underway that's been underway for a number of years to help in that regard. So that's diversity. The other was ethics, critical, even more so today than ever. There's a lot of self-testing that the corporation requires that we take around ethics and making sure that we're doing what is right for the customer, but also is right for, in this case, the bank. And that we're honest in all of our dealings. We operate in a state of integrity, but that there's no mistreatment or any unfairness in any way, shape, or form. So our documents make sure that that's adhered to and it is explained. But the ethics part is very vital to our existence. And we've seen in our industry where that hasn't happened. And the results of this particular bank, the challenges that it continues to face today, where ethics was a major issue. And it continues to be, I think, a hamper to its ability to maximize its performance. And they're still struggling with it. They're still struggling with it. And I'm afraid that they will for some time to come. Yeah.
It's interesting because you've touched on some of these topics in your very first statement, but one of the things you mentioned was how important communication was. Talk a little bit about communication and coordination, if you would.
Customers are really requiring today, I think, clear, accurate communication more so than they ever have. They want to understand exactly in this case, the transaction or services that they're entering into. They want to understand exactly what those fees and interest rates that are being charged, any prepayment fees. I mean, they truly want to understand and know that. So you have to be articulate, accurate, very clear in your communications, both written as well as verbal, in speaking with them. So it's probably one of the most important, I think, skills that we require. We're always customer facing every day, and so that how you communicate, really, in my opinion, is a large determinant as to whether or not that client feels comfortable dealing with you and can trust you, because this is a business of trust, and communication and how you carry yourself goes a long way in establishing that trust with particularly new clients and even existing clients. They want to know that you're an advocate internally for them, and that you are a important financial decision maker for their business. So as services are rendered and loans may be extended, they want to know that you're looking out for their best interest, and that you're able to articulate and clearly communicate that to them, if not on a quarterly basis, certainly on an annual basis. So communication is key. Written and verbal is very key.
And you mentioned visionary roles. Can you talk about the importance of motivation and the leader's responsibility in moving the organization forward?
Yeah, you need to have some fun. As a leader, you absolutely need to have fun. I think that can be a part of the motivating factor, because you want people to come to the team or to the work environment motivated, to your point, to do what it is that you're asking them to do. And I think making sure that it's fun is certainly part of it. It's interesting. Fun is one of those core values that we have in our statements. Work has to be fun. It's got to be something with which you enjoy doing and look forward to doing on a daily basis. Again, I think that's a part of the huge motivating factor. There is charisma that you need to have as well as a leader. People, and you have to be a people person. I mean, people should desire to be a part of your team, should want to have the opportunity to work with you or beside you or a part of your organization. And I've been blessed to have had some of that in my prior careers, and even today being a part of this organization. It's a fun team to be a part of. Sure, you have your challenges, but I'd say the fun part of it is certainly a motivating factor. Charisma. The other part is the leader needs to care for his employees. That's vital in my opinion. They need to know that you care, and that you're there to support their efforts in their work and to approve of their work, to assist them also on their career path in terms of where it is that they're desiring to go. And they want to know that you have their best interest at heart as well. So I think there's a number of factors in that word motivation that resonates with individuals to be a part of your team and are motivated to help in your effort. I would also say we desire that you be a self-initiator. This is not a position, and many positions I think today are not such that you have to be told what to do. We hire you to do the job, so go do it. We'll give you the skills and the ability and the products and technology to go do it, but there's an expectation that you're not going to sit, that you're going to take the action necessary to accomplish what we have put before you to do.
Talk about the importance of being a good decision maker.
Mm. Wow, yeah, decision making. Another key point, you bring out some excellent ones. You have to be able to assess information to the best of your ability, and may do so also with the assistance of a team member before decisions are made. So go through whatever necessary steps to do your due diligence, whatever that may be. In our case, it's reviewing financial statements. We're looking at 3 to 5 years of financial statements. We're assessing cash flow. We're looking at the changes in cash flow and the differences of one year to the next, and getting a great understanding of what has taken place with that company. And then going back to the leaders of that company to get some questions answered that we could not answer on our own before any decision is made. So decision making, it really involves gathering as much information as you possibly can on the front end, making sure that it's accurate and that you have evaluated it properly before any decisions are made. And it may require someone else looking at it other than yourself to assist in that decision making before. There's a great scripture that says, in the multitude of counsel there's safety. And so it doesn't harm you to really get someone else's opinion before a final decision is made. I think it helps you. So not to make a decision in a vacuum, as they say. Get others involved.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Talk, if you will, about the importance of planning.
Yeah. I think it's the 5 P's. Poor planning leads to a poor outcome or something of that nature. I'm not going to remember all the 5 P's, so this is one you may want to cut out of the clip. But here we ask our folks to block time to plan. On your calendar, block off whatever time it is to plan, particularly as you are in the mode of prospecting for new clients. Get to understand that customer or that prospect in this case, their business, the leaders, read as much about their industry and the articles, plan the call with a product partner, whether it's treasury management or institutional asset management or equipment finance. But sit down and take the time to absolutely plan exactly what you're going to say and questions that you're going to ask. So planning, we don't set aside enough time for it, but it is critical to success. It is absolutely critical to success. The last thing you want to have happen is to get into a prospect call and not know the industry that company's in, and not know how the economy is affecting their industry or how prices in steel or whatever it may be affects their industry, because you're not going to come across well and not going to come across prepared. So it's one of the key areas, both with clients as well as prospects, that we try to spend a great deal of time doing is planning. It's vital. It really is vital.
Talk about your perspectives on priority setting and time management as a leader.
Yeah, time management is another key. You cannot find enough time in the day at times to accomplish what it is that you have on your to-do list. And so, and I would say that email tends to suck you in and keep you tied to the desk. So for me, it's best to create a to-do list that's built into your calendar of when you're going to accomplish things that have to absolutely get done and that are priorities. So prioritization of your to-do list in terms of time is critical. We tend to push tough decisions to the end and the easy decisions to the top. It should actually be reversed. So prioritization is something that needs to be a daily activity, one where you're setting that to do and calendaring every single day, and then reviewing it at the end of the day to see whether or not you've accomplished what needs to have taken place. Time is something that you really certainly can't control, and there's certainly enough of, but it can be more properly managed. Email and even returning phone calls should be certain times of the day that you do that. Maybe morning for email, and then maybe noon and maybe afternoon, maybe 3 times. If you're CC'd on an email, I would do that much later in the day because it's not something that you have to decision. It's your carbon copy just as information only. So there's various ways with which you can prioritize and really get to the items that are necessary. For us, it's obviously making sure that our customer calls and emails are returned. We have a sundown rule, so within 24 hours we're to have returned all of our phone calls for that day, or responded to emails that we've received that day, so that we're making sure that the customer requests are taken care of.
Mm-hmm. There's much being said and now taught about different leadership styles and different models of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak to that from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, the best leadership style that I like and I tend to employ is servant leadership. So with servant leadership, you're literally, I want to say, in the trenches with the team. You're working side by side with your teammates to accomplish the goal. So that they never view you as a separatist or someone who is only managing from the top down or managing from the ivory tower, but you're there with them in the project and working it through. It's easy to have individuals, in my opinion, be on your team if they know that you're going to serve them as a leader. And so that's kind of the style that I've always tend to have employed. And knock on wood, it has worked. It really has worked. People have enjoyed being a part of the team because they know that you're going to be there to help them be successful. So you're serving them in their desire to be successful and to achieve. And once they've tasted accomplishment, they're in the game. They're a part of the team. And there's very little more direction or effort or time that needs to be employed with that individual once they've tasted it. Because now they understand it and see it, and hopefully can assist in leading others to that place.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There's much being done now with the mindset of athletes and the importance of the mindset on entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
You talk a little bit about the mindset of a leader, and along with that, there's a second side subject: work-life balance.
Yeah. I think how you phrase the question in terms of leadership and having an entrepreneurial spirit is a good one, because you do have to certainly have a part of that in you, because this is your business. Although you may be in corporate America, they've employed you to lead a team, and you need to run it as if it's your business and has an entrepreneurial focus and mindset, because they're looking for it to be very profitable to them. So I totally agree with that. It's an important, I think, virtue and characteristics of a leader. And I think if you look at many leaders within corporations today, they do see this as their business to grow and to be successful in. And it doesn't hurt to probably have members of your team with that same entrepreneurial spirit. I think they can more quickly attribute and see the vision with you versus you really spending a whole lot of time to get them to that point. That's a very good, I think, word, entrepreneurship in terms of leadership. I think that too comes with that self-initiating. I mean, there's a drive there with entrepreneurs, and there's a drive there with leadership. So the two, in my opinion, do certainly go hand in hand. Work-life balance is just a challenge. I'm just gonna call it what it is. It is very much a challenge. We here try to make sure that individuals take care of themselves, mind, spirit, body. They need to be whole and take the necessary time for themselves and their family. We don't do a good job, I don't believe, in really enforcing it. It's kind of self-managed, if you will. In my case, my manager sits in Gastonia, and so he's very much of the mindset that you're an adult. If you're nearing that point of burnout, it's time to step away. And so it's really a lot of that self-managed in terms of time, work and life balance. But vital. And I think more companies are understanding that to the point where there's an accounting firm here in town that will allow their employees to take a sabbatical for a 3 to 6 month period of time, which I think is just fantastic because it gives, and they are leaders and normally partners within the accounting firm. And so with them stepping away, it gives their team the ability or opportunity to step forward and be a leader while their leader, if you will, is on sabbatical. So it allows people to maybe arise to the occasion, particularly those that also desire to be, in this case, partner of the firm. And some will arise to that challenge, some will not.
Mm-hmm.
It depends upon the individual. And I think it goes back to what you stated earlier in terms of entrepreneurial part of that leadership equation and whether some of that is within them. Because in this case, as accountants, they're there to generate revenue, each one of them. And so I think, in my opinion, they got it figured out in terms of workplace balance because clearly they understand in leading teams, you've got to step away at times and clear your mind and clear your thoughts.
I had a peer at the college tell me I needed to take work-life balance off. Has no place in the conversation.
No place. I know.
But your comment about the staff stepping up if someone's on sabbaticals a perfect lead up to the next and the last question.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about succession planning and
Yeah.
professionally developing your importance of that.
Yeah. We expect that of our clients, particularly business owners. And we're concerned if they do not have that in place. And so we really challenge them to build a leadership team. I'll never forget, I was working with a client of mine, and she had started this company in her garage and grown it to today. That's a $20 million company. But I remember time and time again saying, you have got to develop a leadership team. And what I was really telling her is that you've got to develop management succession. She had one daughter who decided to come into the business, the other did not. And then she began adding a CFO and adding a head of sales and adding warehouse management. And today, she has management succession. Even outside of her daughter, there are other individuals that can clearly lead this company. But it took her probably 20 years to get there because she didn't feel as if anyone could do it other than herself, and certainly not the way that she would do it. And so I think that stands in the way, I think, of many times having management succession, is making sure that there is someone with whom you're training to succeed you. There is one nonprofit here that I think has done it exceptionally well, and it was Edina Wortham Theater. John Ellis was the executive director and had been so for many, many years, but he had another person, probably in the last 5 or 10 years, who was kind of walking in his footsteps, was going to New York, viewing different venues that they would bring to Asheville. And so when he decided to retire, she was right there to be able to step in and take over. And it was an easy decision for the board. They didn't necessarily have to do a nationwide search, although they properly did a search. But they realized that what they had already on staff was more than sufficient. And so I've commented to John on many occasions saying, you have done this transition correctly and better than anyone else that I know. You have truly spent the time and invested the time in an employee who was skilled, educated in this area to succeed you, and was able to keep her while he was still executive director, because I'm sure she had opportunities to go elsewhere. But I think he clearly shared with her his desire for her to succeed him. And it's not easy finding that right person, because that individual may not be a part of your team today, may not be a part of your corporation today. But it's important that that person exists. It really is important that person exists. Yeah. I think that's the issue for us too. Is there are a lot of family businesses here in Western North Carolina, started by either grandparents or parents, and they're in either second or third generation. And sometimes those generations don't want to be a part of the business. There's an expectation within family that you will, but I know of several that they've chosen to have other careers outside the business. And so that makes it even more challenging, or certainly can. But vital, very vital. And again, from our perspective, as we underwrite clients, we want to make sure that there's someone there that could step in should anything happen to the owner, whether it's a spouse or another family member or another coworker. Yeah, that's part of our underwriting process.
And professional development, from your perspective, is a general topic within the organization. How much importance do you place on that?
Not as much as it should be. And in larger corporations, it's easier than a mom and pop to do professional development, I believe, because we have the resources, of course. But I don't think there's as much resources devoted to that as it should be. HR is one of those areas that I think we've kind of moved further and further away from in terms of training and preparing the workforce. I remember going and sitting in classes. Well, those days are gone. You sit in front of your computer now, because most of that is on the computer screen, is pushed out to the employees to do. There's some pluses and minuses to that. So I think there's a deficit. I think, and I think it's growing in light of efficiency that's trying to be gained through other ways, and it's basically cost-cutting measures, in my opinion. So,
Robbie, thank you very much.
I hope that's what